Hello YouTube, you've seen it from the title, the phone police is officially under arrest. It is I, Sheriff NH, who announces to you that each and every one of our members is going to be put in jail. I've personally had enough of these little twerps. They run around all the time ruining fitness for the rest of us. They have created and committed severe crimes against the lifting population on this platform, and therefore they need to be put under seal. I'm going to expose today everything I have against the phone police, all of the stupidity they spout, but also all of the damages that they've done, because you will see that these people who present themselves as being morally superior, as being guardian angels of technique and form, actually do the exact opposite. So if you're not familiar with the existence or term of the phone police is pretty much a special brigade that is hell-bent on correcting the form of every single person that they find on YouTube Fitness. They only do that in the virtual sphere. And it's pretty much a full-time job, meaning that if you're part of the phone police, if you see someone who lives incorrectly according to you, it is your duty as an officer to correct them, even if they ask for absolutely nothing. That is their main trait, by the way. No one is asking them anything, and yet they open their mouth. I don't know if that stems from just a lack of attention in real life, but it does translate directly to a very annoying personality on YouTube. It's the reason why they were calling the phone police. It is not a good thing to be called the phone police, because unlike a police officer who actually is paid for their work, by the way, and is trying to help the population, the phone police helps absolutely no one. They're just a pure annoyance. They're the cockroach of YouTube Fitness. And to me, outside of just the annoying factor that they bring, they also have carried with them a very large amount of misinformation that directly impacts novices. So today, in reality, this video is going to accomplish two things. One, if you are part of the phone police, it's going to correct your ways by showing you with evidence that you're stupid, or it's going to show you that you should not be listening to these people if they at some point manage to swerve you and they actually manage to get into your head, because that's what they do, they try to get into your head. So the first annoying thing they do, as I said, and that is just not acceptable, is the fact that they give phone tips to people who didn't ask. That is already damaging in real life, meaning that it's not something you're supposed to do at all, unless you see someone who's like on the verge of dying, and even then a lot of people will just say, oh, not my problem. And it's true that it's not your problem. If you feel that kindness in your heart to help someone, you can, but understand that it's very rarely well received. I've tried to do that in commercial gyms, people don't like it. And in truth, they don't like it because I was also part of the phone police at that moment. They didn't ask for my help and I just intervened. That is not a good trait to possess, but it's especially worse on YouTube Fitness because unlike an actual gym where the person can tell you to go fuck yourself, on YouTube Fitness they're protected from retributions, and that's also what makes them cowards for the most part. And my personal grievance with them outside of this is also the fact that they are for the most part terrible at their jobs, meaning that you could expect them to actually be decent. Like if you're going to be that authority figure that corrects people on their technique, then you should actually be correct and not spout stupidity. But I found that across the board, they understand absolutely nothing of biomechanics and they don't know how the body works because, surprise, surprise, the vast majority of them don't even lift. So let's get into the list of why they don't even lift, the reasons why their advice is stupid, and across the board, all of the things concerning form and technique on this platform that just make me want to chuck rocks at the heads of people sometimes. Because being a content creator has its perk, and I discuss with plenty wonderful people, even some that I disagree with, but every single time I've had to deal with the phone police, it just made my blood pressure go through the roof because I personally, and that's my flaw, cannot deal with stupidity. I know I shouldn't have started making YouTube videos because a lot of people on this platform are stupid and the people who open their mouth a ton tend to be stupid, but it's just something that I have to deal with now. That being said, it gave me a ton of good insights I'm going to share with you guys. So, the first thing and the first problem with the phone police is that their entire ideology stems from the idea that there is such a thing as universal form we all must follow. That is the crux of it. It's what they think, meaning that they have in their brain a certain idea of how to lift, and that's it. They do not perceive variations, they do not understand leverages. For them, you either do that or you're just poo-poo. Like, there's no other way. There's no options in these people's heads. That's it, right? They're absolutists, they're extremists, the worst kind. And the issue, of course, is that this doesn't work in real life. You cannot function like this, especially if you're trying to help people. But we'll see that this is not what they're trying to do. Because in reality, they're agents of structure, they're agents of order. They want everyone to do the same thing. They want to normalize certain things. And they want to be able to say, this is 100% good, and this is 100% bad. Why? Because it's a very comforting way of life. Being able to say exactly 100% that there's a black and there's a white is comforting. It's a distinction. It's a way to actually go through life without having to question things. The problem is that you end up quickly realizing that this gets you absolutely nowhere. But these people are the equivalent of some individual that bumps their head against a wall but doesn't realize they could just climb the wall. They just keep bumping their head and it doesn't work. And of course, as I said, there's self-evident rules to follow, because the issue with them too is that they're not completely incorrect, meaning that it's true that there are certain pointers that most people should follow, but not all of them. And also these pointers are flexible, meaning that it's not absolute. Okay, it's flexible, it's relative to the individual in particular. The technique mostly depends on the individuals, meaning that proper form for you will not be proper form for someone else. That should be a given. Like, I shouldn't even have to say that. But I know that for some people, this is a revelation. For some people, it's even shocking, and it offends them that I could say that, because they don't like that idea. But you'll see, and you'll get quickly to understand why they think like this. It's very easy to pinpoint psychologically. It's unacceptable for form, for anyone that is not part of the form police to not abide by what they say. For them, it's a crime. This is the reason why they're the form police, by the way. We call them like this because they treat improper form as if it were a crime. But think about this. Why is a crime bad? Because it affects you. If someone lives improperly and you have the intimate conviction they're going to snap their shit, how does it affect you? It doesn't. Meaning what? Meaning that in the most part, the form police fabricates crimes. They have the intention of solving something that doesn't need to be solved in the first place. And it is what makes them undesirable across the board. Of course, if you're a form police, and if you're supposed to be an officer that is carrying a grand order, you cannot accept a no. Like if you drove out and you speeded, for example, and you told the officer that arrested you, oh, it's fine. The officer is not going to like it because he needs everyone to follow the same rules, or else he can't do his job. But the thing is that the officer, again, is trying to help the community so that you don't run over children. Here, the form police follows the same guidelines, meaning that if you refuse to follow their universal truths, they get offended and they band against you. But for what payback? What is the payback here? It's not to help you, it's never been to help you. In reality, this mindset is mostly selfish, as we'll get to see later. But it wasn't just birthed out of nowhere. I can pinpoint exactly where it started on YouTube Fitness, and that was when powerlifting started becoming big. Because before that, there of course was a discussion about technique and form, but the form police wasn't fully fledged yet, meaning that you couldn't really notice these people. Nowadays, they're everywhere. Like the second I get a comment from one of these guys, I know exactly that's it. It's him. He's there. He's member number 29. I know his style. I know what he's going to say already because he's an NPC. Like all of these guys, the form police, they're all the same dude. That blows the mind, by the way, too. They're all with the same talking points. They have the same opinions. They live the same way. They accept the same forms. To the point sometimes where I wonder, is there a factory somewhere where these guys are made? And can we send missiles to the factory to get rid of it? Those are, of course, rhetorical questions. The answer is yes and yes. You can also call them form Nazis. I will refer to them as form Nazis later. You'll understand why. And as I said, it's unacceptable for form Nazis because they want everyone to lift the same. They want a uniformization of lifting because it's easier for their pea brain to comprehend, right? If I told you, yeah, there's a specific form for every single lift and for every single person, meaning that they compound, meaning that there's an infinite number of potential techniques, your brain fries, right? If you're someone who's petty and limited, you don't like to hear that. You want a restricted word, something simple to understand for your 60 IQ. So you're just going to point out those things and say, oh, but that's improper form. Improper form, that is a term that you only hear from the form police. There is improper form sometimes based on the individual and the feedback they get, but across the board, you cannot call something improper if it works for the person. There are of course extremes that never work for anyone, but that's more of a strawman argument in reality. So again, as I said, this mindset derivates from powerlifting. And by saying that, I don't blame powerlifting because you'll quickly see that the people who use that type of mindset are not powerlifters. The reason, of course, is because powerlifting uses very strict criteria, meaning that to judge a powerlifting competition, you need to be a bit of a form stickler. You need to be part of the form police, quote unquote, because you need to be able to assess whether or not a lift is good. And that is it. It's within competition. It doesn't exist outside of it. None of the judges in powerlifting competitions go out in the wild to a commercial gym and go up to random strangers and say, oh, that's a red light, bro. I just red lighted you. Like, no. Because they have a functioning prefrontal cortex. They understand that within the boundaries of powerlifting competitions, their expertise matters. Outside of it, it doesn't. And here we're talking about fully fledged judge, not some teenager behind a computer that is going to judge someone else's form. But we'll get to that. You'll see that I'm going to ramp up with this video. I will eventually get extremely heated. So, this is also to blame, this is also something we can blame on bodybuilding in reality, because bodybuilding took it a little bit too far with the freedom thing. It's true that bodybuilders tend to, you know, live the way they want to live, and sometimes they espouse practices that are really not that safe or effective, and they try to pass them down as such. And of course, you have powerlifting who opposes that, and it's a clashing of forces. To me, it's healthy because it's a discussion to be had, but it becomes unhealthy when the form police joins, because you'll see that these people have no affiliation. They're rogue cops. They don't really abide by anyone. It's the reason why I said that I, Sheriff NH, have actually called for their arrest, because they're not working for me, but they're not working for powerlifting either. They're working for no one but themselves, because they are lacking in recognition and attention. And this is actually a practice, a phenomenon. How can I explain that? It's so tough. I need a certain word. It's a cry for help. That practice, what they do is a cry for help, and you'll understand why. But I want to also make clear here that in this video I'm going to talk about bodybuilding. So I'm calling out the form police as a bodybuilder, not as a powerlifter. So the points I'm going to be making are going to be related to size and not strength, and that's important. So, the first example I want to take, and the best example in reality, is range of motion. Because if we're talking form police, I need to be able to give you clear examples of how they function. Well, Rome is the best example. The Rome Patrol, which is an iteration of the form police, doesn't understand something very simple about range of motion. And that is that it's about distance traveled, not body position. Just by saying that, I must have confused the heck out of you. So basically what I mean by this is that if we're going to discuss range of motion, you cannot just look at the starting position and the end position, because too many people who judge range of motion look at the bottom portion of the Rome and they say, okay, that's good or that's bad. That's not how it works for hypertrophy. You need to look at the distance the bar travels. Why? Because that's what range of motion here is. Range of motion, range, not end of motion, range of motion, okay? And the distance travel is what puts the muscle under tension. Again, not the end. What happens at the end is a static position that reverses into a positive. I'll explain more what I mean by that because it's very important. This video also serves as a tutorial to explain to you how you should think about form, technique, range of motion, etc. So these people don't get it because, as I said, they're really bad at their job. They have decided to follow a life pursuit of calling out people for poor technique, but they themselves don't understand what it means to have good technique. So, for example, a form police member will look at someone's squat and they'll decide if the squat is good or not based on where it ends. So for example, if it ends too high for their taste, they're going to say, oh, that's high, so that's a bad squat. Not keeping in mind that the person could have traveled enough distance to hit parallel on average, but didn't because of their leverages. So that's a discussion that is in reality torn between the absolute viewpoint of the form police and the relative viewpoint of someone who is lifting. But beyond that, if we're going to discuss range of motion, I must say that the concept in itself is mostly obsolete, meaning that it's obsolete the way most people think about it. What I mean by that is that if you look at leverages, you completely shatter the concept. For example, let's take a short guy and a tall guy. Short guy squats ass to grass. Tall guy squats to parallel. Can you tell me that short guy had a bigger range of motion? You can't. If you say yes, congratulations, you're part of the form police. You cannot, because if you say yes, it means that you judge the range of motion based on the end of the negative, and that's not possible. You know why? Because there's a strong chance that if you actually calculate the distance traveled, tall guy traveled more distance to get to parallel than short guy took to get to ass to grass. And this opens a door that a lot of people don't want to discuss because they're afraid to be just power driven by these people. That is the discussion of ass to grass in itself. What on earth is ass to grass? First off, no one squats ass to grass because you don't squat in grass. So it's a metaphor to start with, it's a meme. And on top of that, it's entirely dependent on leverages. Meaning that there are some people, and you can quote me on that, who physically cannot squat ass to grass. It's not possible. And you'll tell me, oh, do mobility work. It's not about mobility. It's about basic leverages. If your leverages do not allow for your butt to go that low, the butt simply cannot go that low. And it always cracks me up because usually it's the manlets of the form police who have that argument all the time, like, oh, I go ass to grass, so you can go too. Yeah, but look at you. You're built like a garden gnome. Your legs, your femur is the length of my arm. It's the length of my forearm, not even my arm, just my forearm. Of course you can go ass to grass. You barely bend the knee and you're already there. Why? Because if you look at a leg and you look at the very concept of ass to grass, what bends is going to be the femur, the quad that connects to the butt and then is going to go ass to grass. Meaning what? The longer that bone is, the tougher it is to go ass to grass. And if you look at leverages again, it gets to a point where guys with very long legs, women with very long legs, cannot physically go there because their asses cannot get any closer to their hamstring because the leverage just doesn't permit it. So the only way they could go ass to grass is if they hang onto something and then let their torso go fully vertical. But that's not a squat anymore. And the problem is that I know that some people don't grasp that. But to make you understand why it's so stupid to tell someone who's tall to just go ass to grass, bro, let me use an example you'll understand. What if you're 5'4" and I show to you a cupboard and I say, hey, can you grab me a bowl? And you tell me, oh, I'll need a chair for that. And I tell you, no, just reach for it. I'm 6 feet, I can get it, I can reach for it. So why can't you? Why can't you go up the cupboard, bro? Imagine if someone did that to you. You'd look at them like if they were retarded. You'd tell them, I physically can't. It's out of my reach, I cannot, I'm too short. Same thing for tall people. The concept of ass to grass is reserved for people who have the leverages for it. Meaning that the very idea is not objective, it's subjective, it's case by case. Ass to grass to you is not ass to grass for someone else. And you'll see that it goes deeper than that because I can even deconstruct the very idea of ass to grass even more. But this is again to try and make you understand that the concept of range of motion is obsolete. What matters is not the judgment of the range of motion, it's what it does. What matters is not, oh, I can sit and I'm very low. Cool, congratulations, who gives a fuck? What matters for hypertrophy is the travel distance that creates the tension that makes the muscle grow. You don't get extra hypertrophy points for going as to grass. You don't. I'm sorry to say that, you do not. You do, however, if it exceeds the stimulus you would have gotten if you cut the range of motion. But I'll get to that. So the cupboard example I think is great. If I offended any manlets, it's your fault, you better behave. Stop nagging tall people for the way they squat. We do what we can with our long legs. Some people, I say, can go as to grass. And this zealot mindset also gets people hurt because yes, and that's again YouTube fitness fault because the Form Police also contains some very big YouTube fitness channels who preach the same bullshit because they are ran by short dudes who can't wrap their heads around the fact that not everyone again is built like a fridge. Some people are built like grasshoppers. You cannot make a guy who looks like an actual crane, a human crane, squat the same way you do. You're so compact, you're so squat, you're literally squat. Your body type is named after the lift. You were built to do that stuff. Like, at least accept that, rejoice that you have perfect leverages, and then apply proper practices for other people. Be a good example. But a lot of people didn't do that, which gets what? Tall people hurt. Because when you're tall and you're told all the time, oh, you have to squat as to grass, and who cares if you have a butt wing so bad that you almost have your butt like shooting in front of you like a dog taking a poop? Just keep doing it, bro. And then one day you snap your lower back because you're just not squatting the way your anthropometry dictates. You're trying to copy someone else's form brought to you by the Form Police. The Form Police, #1 creator of grievous injuries. I'm not kidding here. I couldn't tell you the amount of people who got snapped up. Maybe in the comments there will be some people who will actually speak up. We will start a lawsuit against these people. I am telling you that. And the worst part, right, we're getting to a part that grinds my gears, is that this mindset is absolute. So the idea of saying, oh, as to grass or nothing, it's... Sometimes I go on Instagram, I know my mistake, and I just scroll when I take a poop, and I look at some of the memes and I'm thinking, man, either this is really advanced irony that I just don't understand, that my boomer brain doesn't understand, or these people are actually brain dead. Because I see some memes that spread truths, and it's mostly stuff like, oh, if you don't squat as to grass, you're not even squatting. What? That doesn't even make any sense. A squat is a knee flexion. It's not correlated with the range of motion. Any type of squat is a squat. Then you have an ass to grass squat that even that depends on the individual. But worse than that, the very people who spout that bullshit and who say, oh, you have to go this. Well, guess what? I can find you a version of a squat that goes even deeper than your ass to grass. So if I find you that and I show you how to do it, will you do it? Because apparently more range of motion is always better regardless of leverages. So if I show you and I prove to you that you can go deeper than you think, will you do it? Well, congratulations, I actually have something for you that you are going to love because you love to go ass to grass. I'm going to show you a way to actually go ass to floor, or your butt will be that close to touching the ground. You'll be able to dust the floors of your gym. And that is the snatch squat. Yeah, you've ever seen an Olympic weightlifter do a snatch? Have you seen the position they catch the snatch? That's deeper than any squat you've ever done. There's more ankle flexion, more knee flexion that you've ever done in your life. The butt is deeper than you've ever been. That's as to grass. You know what? I'm going to be a member of the Form Police now, and I stipulate, starting today, that this is as to grass. So if you don't squat that deep, then you're not squatting at all. Oh, but it's a snatch. It's different. Oh, why is it different? Maybe because the leverages and the torso angle are different. It's as if people's disposition in terms of biomechanics dictate their range of motion. We learned something today, haven't we? But to use that argument also and not just make it a meme, the reason why it's so interesting to talk about that is because Ollie lifters are a perfect example of people who squat deep all the time because they have to, because it actually is in line with specificity for their sport. Look at how they catch their fucking bars. Do you see those positions? They look so uncomfortable. If they don't train the position, they can't actually fulfill their lifts and they can't win. So they do it. They go as to grass. And it's the reason why also they have become a trademark, an icon of good squat form. People talk about that all the time. And I agree, but it's a good squat form for them, for what they need to do, because it's what makes sense. It makes sense for them to go that deep because, again, look at the position they're forced into. They have to. But something that no one talks about is the knee valgus. Olympic weightlifters tend to have horrendous knee valgus, so suddenly that's okay? Where is the logic here? That's okay, but then we use them as examples of good range of motion. What about the fact that they dive bomb their squat all the time? That's okay too, even though that's technically in proper form. I say that and you might tell me, okay, but now you're just reversing the script. You're telling them they do something improperly. No, I'm showing you how the form police thinks. I don't think like this. I know why they dive bomb. It's because when you do a fast movement like a snatch or a clean and jerk, you don't go with a slow negative. You explode. You need power to go through, so you're going to go as fast as possible, using as much kinetic energy as possible. Same for the knee valgus. Yeah, the knee valgus is not the best, but guess what? For 1 rep max, it's not going to kill you, especially if you're a trained athlete. And if it helps you put out maximum power outage, then it's worth it. Is it worth it for powerlifters? Maybe. I'm not a powerlifter. Is it worth it for bodybuilders? No, because now it's a different ball game. If you have knee valgus and you bodybuild, now that's bad because you're going to do too many reps, you're going to damage the tendons, etc. If you dive bomb, same thing. You have to go through a slowish negative to control the negative because that's when the hypertrophy occurs. See, 2 practices, 2 techniques. But the reason why I said that powerlifting and strength sports created the form police is because these guys took one look at a competition and said, that's proper form now and for the rest of times apply to every single person that walks the earth. You see them also when a basketball player squats high and they're like, oh, he squats high. Yeah, because he's not trying to go as to grass, because he's trying to develop his explosivity. I don't understand why people don't grasp those simple concepts. There are different techniques for different goals. Whew. And then you'll tell me, and you'll try to come to me by talking to me about muscle activation. You'll tell me, but NH, if you go deeper, it's better for muscle activation. And I don't disagree. 2 squats done for the same amount of reps with the same negative length, and one as to grass, and the other one at parallel will have a better muscle activation for the as to grass. Yes, I am not saying that that's not true. The problem is that the scenario I just painted is highly unrealistic because most likely you will move more weight if you don't go as to grass. And therefore, it is not a good comparison to make because what matters is going as deep as possible based on leverages. To promote progression, squatting to parallel is sometimes necessary. There's no point in squatting deep if it limits hypertrophy. Very simple sentences, easy to grasp. If you constantly squat as to grass, that is 1 range of motion. If you squat as to grass and to parallel, that's 2 ranges of motion. That is called double progression. Because yes, range of motion is a parameter of the specificity tree. You can have variations based on range of motion, but if you're blindly always going as to grass, you will never grasp that concept, and that is so sad because it can help you progress. And you will find across the board that it will help always. And just to finish with an example, if you have the choice between a 300-pound squat as to grass and a 350 squat parallel, there's a chance you will get better muscle activation from the 350. So you have to make a choice. I would tell you to do both, but don't limit yourself to one or the other. The 2 are valid. Okay, a little bit of water. And now it's when I'm going to start stabbing those people. Not literally, I'm an immigrant. If I get arrested by the police, I'm going to be deported. So it's a metaphor, okay? It's a metaphysical knife within the idiocy that represents our philosophy. There's a saying, and I put that sentence in the description because I think that it sums it up perfectly. The form police uniforms only comes in S size. What does that mean? It means that across the board, all of these guys are skinny. I know it already. Like, when I see one of those comments, I develop a paranormal capacity to just see the person with my third eye, and every single time I see the same thing. I see the guy in the thumbnail. It's some skinny dude who for some reason has decided that it's going to be his life mission to police people's form, and who doesn't even do it properly. But he's too stupid to understand the extent of his stupidity. And I'm here to remind him, or you, if you're part of that group, that you truly are a skinny DL, and you need to just shut your mouth and go lift instead. Stop caring so much about how other people lift and go lift. This is just the introduction. It's une mise en bouche. I'm going to roast you now. So, the very metrics used by the form police are stupid. Because a lot of the time, as I explained to you, they don't understand the very concept of as to grass and what it means in the practice and the applications. But worse than that, they can't even accurately decide what is as to grass, right? Or depth. Why? Because these are very tough to judge. There is a reason why in powerlifting competitions, the serious one, there's not just one fucker in a plastic chair slurping on a mojito who's just watching from the front and saying, oh, that's shallow, bro. No, there's three people in front, you have guys on the side, you have a guy in the back, and then they try and actually sync up to see if the squat was to depth. Why? Because depth is tough to judge. Every time I see one of these guys who simplifies it and say, oh, if the hip crease gets below the knee, yeah, but it's easy to say that. It's much harder to see, especially when the person is actually wearing clothes. And you can ask any powerlifting judge or any powerlifters, it's really hard. And therefore, you, watching a video, cannot accurately judge depth. It is almost impossible. And they should know that, right? They are such experts in their fields. They should know that this is not possible, and yet they don't. Why? Because, as I said, they're not invested at all. And also because at the end of the day, they're not interested in reality. What they really care about is not proper form. And this is represented by the constant confusion that surrounds parallel and as to grass. And a good example, again, taken straight from my channel, is my squat videos. If you go into my playlist and you check my squat videos, you will see a bunch of comments by the form police that are always inaccurate. Like, I'm not even kidding when I tell you that 100% of the time, these comments are incorrect, meaning that they just don't know how to judge depth. And it also got me to a point where I realized that these are purists that will never be satisfied. What I mean by this is, when I would post a squat to parallel, people would say that it was high. It's not high, it's parallel. So it's up. They always tell you it's too high, so it's just 1 meter up. Then I would post a video as to grass, again based on my leverages, so I can't go any deeper, and I would be told that this was parallel. An actual, and again, I'm not making this up, it's in the playlist. There's an actual video of me where you can see in the mirror and just in the shot, my glutes just fold into my hamstring. Like, they're stuck. I cannot physically go any deeper. You know what I saw in the comments? Oh, you need to go as to grass. How? How? I take a shovel and I dig underneath my ass? How? Do I cut my leg? Is that what you want? There's no physical way for me to go deeper. And I've seen that also on push-up videos where I would do a push-up and you can see my chest touch the floor and someone says, oh, that's not full range of motion. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? Dig in the floor with my titties so that I can create a hole to go deeper? What is the point? What is the idea? But the worst is that if I take that very mindset again, just like with the snatch, and I revert it back to them, I just screw their entire ideology, because what about the deadlift? What about the deadlift? Is it full range of motion, a deadlift? I don't think so. I don't think so. You could dig a hole, a trench underneath you to go even deeper. So why don't you do it? You can literally go as far as to deadlift with your knuckles touching the floor. That is full range of motion. You cannot go any deeper. So why don't we all do it? If full range of motion is so great, why don't we all do it? Why? Do you have an answer? The answer is, we don't know. Why? Because technique and form is really up to the individual. I can continue like this forever. I can tell you with every single lift something that I can modify to make it with more range of motion. Like the bench. You could have a barbell that is like this, like a square, like this, and a bar on the side, like a spider bar for the squat. Take a spider bar, Mr. Foam Police, bench with that. You're going to have so much range of motion. Your elbows are going to be touching the floor. You're also going to tear both pectoral muscles, but it's okay, right? Range of motion is what matters, right? Of course not. But it's the reason why this is so stupid to say. You cannot think like this. And the worst part is that even when they try to apply things that make sense, like parallel, which is a valuable thing, or as to grasp, they can't even do it properly. Whew. So, all of that, why? Because in reality, you could ask yourself, okay, they do that, maybe they're just stupid, but it's never that easy. It's never that, you can't just explain things via people's stupidity. There's always something behind it. And what could be the motivation of someone who is going to be hell-bent on constantly telling people that their form isn't right and will never be satisfied and always have something to say? Well, it's very simple. This comes from a desire to police others, to feel superior. That's it. Like, I just summed it up. All of that behavior on YouTube about telling someone, no, that's bad form, blah, 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 that comes from insecurity. These people feel bad, and the only thing they have is this weird sense of control they have over someone else because they have the superior truth. They are the form police. They can tell you exactly what good form is. And therefore, it makes them feel good. I don't understand it personally. I was never that pathetic in my life, and I've reached certain stages that were really pathetic, but I've never gotten to that level. And the worst part, there's a lot of worst parts because it just gets worse and worse, is that this behavior is camouflaged behind benevolence, meaning that these people pretend that they're doing that for your own good. Like they're going to say, oh, it's so that you don't get injured. But is it? First off, I must say that in my years of going to commercial gyms, I have never, ever been approached by someone who told me to squat deeper or don't do this or don't do that. Ever. You know why? Because they took one look at me and they thought, he's bigger than me. He knows what he's doing. I'm going to leave him alone. Ta-da! And you know why the form police is so prevalent on YouTube Fitness? Is because it's a bunch of cowards who would never have the balls to do it in real life, and therefore they do it behind a computer. Because going on someone who's so much stronger or bigger than them and being like, you don't do it right, is so much easier. And this is not just me, because me, I'm a weakling. I'm super weak. I've seen that on the powerlifters, world record holders, some kid who's like, oh, you need to go deeper. Even on serious powerlifting pages, like Strength Central, go in their comments. You're going to go insane. You see some monster of a man squatting 800 solid ass pounds, and some guy is going to have something to say about it. Like, oh, it's you're a inch above parallel, I can tell. No, you can't. You cannot tell. You're not a powerlifting judge. And on top of that, no one asked. And that guy could just be squatting like this because he's training. And that's not just that, of course. I know powerlifters on this channel are going to tell their stories about it. It's all of the people who say, oh, sumo is cheating and you can't bench like this and don't do this, don't do that. Why? Why do you say that? It's in the rules. If it's in the rules and it works, then it works. Who cares if you have decided that it's not proper form? That doesn't matter. I have a news flash for you. In strength sports, there is no such thing as style points. You won't get cookie points because your squat looks pretty. That's another obsession of the form police. Pretty. It has to look pretty. Oh, there's a reason why they have such a boner for the high bar squat. Look, I get it. Front squat, high bar squats done by Ollie lifters. Yes, it looks really pretty. Yes, it's beautiful. But it's good for them. Outside of that practice, it's not applicable. So when people say, oh, look at powerlifters, they squat like idiots. Yeah, but it works. They hit depth, they got the bar up, so it works, okay? Just because the guy out-squats you like 500 pounds doesn't make his form inferior. It makes you inferior. Like, you're not going to show up at a powerlifting meet, squat 300 pounds, ask to grasp with a pause, and then go up to the judge and say, he out-squatted me by 500, but my squat was pretty, so maybe I win? Like, that guy is going to laugh in your face. No, He squatted more than you. That's all that matters. If tomorrow there's a powerlifter that shows up, squats 1,300 pounds by just doing a good morning and just pancaking the weight and kissing the floor with his forehead, as long as the crease of his hips was lower than the kneecap, that's green lighted. He wins. Oh, it's not pretty. So what? You want to feel better about yourself? Take a video of your pretty squats and into your mom or your Facebook friends and they can give you likes. But you won't win competitions like this. Across all sports, the guy who lifts with a pretty style doesn't win. The guy who lifts the more weight wins. And it's the same for bodybuilding. Who cares about the way you lift? The way you look matters. And all of that, again, is based on the individual. And I've widely lost my line. I have no idea where I'm supposed to be right now. So let's see. I'm going to drink and I'm going to find the line where I was. And again, as I said, all of that you could say, oh, it's just misplaced. They just want to help. They don't want to help. I can tell the difference between someone who asks me on my comments, oh, why do you lift like this? Or why don't you go all the way down? I can tell when it's someone who's generally curious or someone who's kind-spirited and who's trying to prevent what they perceive to be a future injury. I can tell. I don't dislike these people. They're not the form police. They're just doing what they think is right. I can immediately, however, detect a message from a little twerp that weighs 120 pounds, who barely squats 2 plates, and who's going to try and make himself feel superior. And that goes out to all of the people also who think that their squat is better because it looks good. I've said it, but I'll just reiterate because who cares? A 900-pound squat with a slight knee cave is always superior to a 600-pound squat that is perfect. Guess why? 300 pounds on the bar more. That's why. That's it. The weight on the bar tells no lies. You can pack up your pretty squat and go home, you won, no prize. All of that was birthed by troll culture. Troll culture that I also was, in a sense, birthed by because I spent all of my time as a youngster trolling people on the internet. But on YouTube Fitness, it can be pinpointed and there's a very clear source in reality. Meaning that the form police in itself comes from, again, powerlifting, and paradoxically also became the biggest enemy of powerlifting, right? Because nowadays they're the ones pissing them off with garbage advice and pointers. But on top of that, it goes beyond it because the very specific way these people talk, the jokes they use, the memes, the very logical approach they have, can be traced back to algae intensity. And unlike what you think, I'm not going to shit on the guy because I actually really like him. He's one of the few funny channels on this page. He knows how to write properly. And he instigated really and started this entire form police movement. He's the first guy who really started breaking down people's form and saying that's good, that's bad, and making fun of them. The difference, however, between him and the form police is that he actually lifted. Meaning that I have no problem personally with a guy who's super strict on certain things and certain techniques if he himself applies it. He would tell people that if they didn't go as to grass, it was bad, which again, based on leverages, he's Asian, which, you know, they tend to have good leverages for squats. He had the ability to go as to grass. He showcased it with a lot of weight. That's okay. He had great deadlift form, great bench form. So he had some legitimacy to talk shit. Also because he showed his face. So people talk shit right back at him. But the form police is anonymous and therefore you just don't get to do it. Right? If you don't show who you are, your lifts or your physique, on YouTube Fitness, by rule of thumb, you are inexistent and you need to just shut your trap. No one wants to hear it. You don't exist. You're literally the ghost of tomorrow's lifts. You are just wind in the trees, right? I don't want to hear a word. You can discuss with me, but not on the basis of the form police, not with absolute terms, because you yourself have not demonstrated that you apply these terms. And that's a big portion of those form trolls that love to use the term and the catchphrase that was coined by algae intensity, which is zero. Yeah, it's great, zero. Well, it's so funny, right? Yeah, it's super funny. It was stolen by Greg Doucette, I think, at some point. The problem with this is that it's funny when he uses it, not when 10,000 people use it afterwards. And on top of that, there's a very interesting subtext to zero. The very first being, of course, the idea that zero means that you did no reps. And that is already untrue, by the way. A half squat is a rep. It's a half rep, but it's a rep. A half pull-up is a rep. A half curl is a rep, etc., etc. So it's comedic. It's comedic, sorry. And LG Intensity is a comedian, so people should understand that. But it's something very common you see, and you see it in real life too, on the news, where comedians have become the new bearers of truth, and we're supposed to use their jokes as solid arguments. Newsflash, these are not arguments, they are jokes, and by default cannot be used in a logical discussion, because again, they are jokes, so they're hyperbolic by default. But I'll go back to the zero thing, because it has even more meaning that I haven't covered yet. But I'm going to also check the time. I swear, these videos, I make them, I think, oh, 20 minutes, 40 minutes in. It's always the same. My time management is poor. I have poor form on my time management. Okay, so that troll culture, as I said, is aggravating because no one asks them. See, that's the problem with the zero thing. Zero means that at some point someone asks you, hey, can you tell me if I got a rep? But no one asked, like no one did, and therefore you're just giving your advice or opinion that no one wants to hear. I suspect that a lot of people who do that on the internet are people who just don't get much attention in real life, which is a little sad. Maybe mommy didn't really pay attention to them growing up, and now they have, you know, to give their opinion to random people. I know guys like this in real life. I just want to give them a hug, because you can feel the sorrow. But in this case, I think that stems from that. Or from a misplaced attempt at being funny, but that's just not funny. So yeah, no one asked. And again, if you are so hell-bent on judging people's form, why don't you become a powerlifting judge? You could, I mean, you could get a training and become a powerlifting judge. Of course, that would mean actually learning how and when to judge people's depth. And since these people can't do it, they won't. As I said, your 200-pound squat is not superior. It's not even better for progression or hypertrophy. That's also what I want to put out, because I've mostly spoken about strength sport and I've made myself the champion of powerlifting. It also goes for anything, meaning that limiting yourself to only 80 G on the squat is not even that great for hypertrophy, as I said, or progression, because you're limiting yourself. You're limiting your option. So the form police has no use. Like they have managed to be wrong on every single point. That is impressive. It's an achievement in itself. Now, let's use the second example. After the squat, we're going to talk about locking out a lift. Because this is another facet of the form police that they use all the time to try and make people feel bad about their technique, but that makes no sense. Let me explain to you why. First off, this comes from strength sport as well. Thank you very much, guys. I know it's not your fault. I'm still salty against you. Because in strength sports, to hit the lift, you don't just need to go through the bottom range of motion. You also need to lock the lift. If you don't lock the lift, it's red lighted, it doesn't count. And therefore, the lock is super important. You cannot go without it. The problem is that that's it. Like, there is no other application of the lock. You could tell me also that it's for security, because in reality, when you're waiting for the judges to give you the down signal, when you're holding 500 pounds above your head in a clean and jerk, yeah, you sort of want them to be able to, you know, assess the lift with a secure position, meaning that you want the joints to be aligned and stacked so that you don't wobble and drop the bar on your head and die. So that's also a safety practice. It's perfectly understandable. But this shows also the bidimensional existence and just nature of form, right? It's not just the bottom. It's not just the top. This is a regressive way to approach form and range of motion, because it's trying to sum up the totality of the concept by the sum of its parts. I've spoken about it in the minimalist video. This is not a good way to approach lifting, because you're missing the big picture. And the truth is that in a lift, what matters is the movement, the distance, but not fixated points throughout the lift. This is a terrible way to assess it. But it's primordial for strength sports, because if they're judging the way you lift, they have to take photo finishes at some point and say, okay, at this point, he hits depth. At this point, it was locked. Therefore, he wins. He gets his lift green lighted. So powerlifting has to focus more on these, but when they train, they don't. It's the reason why powerlifters don't always squat ass to grass. They still need to train the movement. But guess what? Bodybuilders only need to train the movement. So those side aspects don't even matter to us. Locking out being a part of them, because, as I said, it does absolutely nothing for hypertrophy. Nothing. And I'm going to explain to you why. And you're going to see that I'm right, as I very often am. So, I want to use the example of the overhead press, because this is the one that I hear the most the form police rave about. The form police tells you that if you don't lock the overhead press, it's zero, and therefore it doesn't count. First off, no one asked, again, but secondly, it's bullshit, for one simple reason. When you do an overhead press, so you press above your head, okay, and you get to a point where you're, let's say here, okay, and you want to lock it. You want to lock it like this, okay? You lock why? To secure the weight above your head. Let me ask you a question. Try to answer truthfully. Let's say I'm here. I haven't locked the overhead press. I agree with you, it's not locked. This is a lock. Okay, I don't know if you can see my arm. This is a lock. Okay. Can you tell me truthfully that this motion here is responsible for an hypertrophic response? Quick, can you tell me this? It's a pop quiz. Can you? I don't think so. If you tell me yes, you're an idiot. This does nothing. Right? If I were to assess the hypertrophic benefits of doing this, maybe 1%, maybe, that's being generous, maybe. And for the people who tell me, oh, the squeeze does nothing. It's the same for people who push their butt at the top of a squat or deadlift. One, you look ridiculous. Again, you look like a dog taking a poop. Two, it does nothing. Nothing. Don't even, oh, but maybe, no. The muscle is not under tension. You're resting the bar and the weight on the structure, so the muscle is not involved. You're just squeezing it. And if you tell me that this creates an hypertrophic response, then by default, you should just squeeze your muscles all the time. You just doing this, squeezing the bicep should be enough for bicep hypertrophy, because you just told me that it's what matters the most in the range of motion. It's that lock, it's that squeeze that goes with the lock. So what is the truth? I just showed to you that this is just completely illogical. Completely illogical. It makes no sense. And if you tell me, oh, but it's because there's weight. Again, look at leverages. When you do a curl, the curl is the best example, it gets people mad. When you do a curl, okay, you go here, and then you do your squeeze. Is the muscle under tension here? Is it under tension when you do your squeeze? No, it's not. This is stacked. So the weight is balanced on a stacked bone, meaning that doing this, with or without weight, makes no difference. It would make a difference if you engage in torso lean with the joint locked. That would make a difference. But for the squeeze, it does nothing. So stop. And it's the reason why also it's so interesting to see that the form police destroys technique, because they never call out that type of misapplication of lifting. Never. And it's also the reason why I say they do their job very poorly. I'll give you other examples. They never, and I've never seen the form police tell people who push their hips in when they squat or deadlift for what it is, which is bad form, stupidity. I never hear that. Why? Well, maybe because they don't understand what they're talking about. And therefore, they just repeat whatever they heard from someone else without thinking, because they don't get biomechanics. I just proved to you that it's bullshit. So the entire thing about, oh, you have to lock the overhead press. Newsflash, you don't. You just do not. And to use another example of the pathetic nature of the form police, if you go into my playlist again, look at my overhead press videos. These are videos that don't get recommended by the algorithm, right? The only way to find them is to look for them, which means that there are some point where people are looking for them. Look at the comments. It's a bunch of people telling me, oh, that's not overhead press, blah, blah, blah. I personally don't give a fuck, but I want you to put yourself in the shoes of someone who would actually go on a channel and look for a video where they can finally say, oh, you have bad form. This is especially applicable for me because I'm also a form Nazi. Like, this is what pisses me off. I've been told by people that I was too strict on form. And I am. I'm the guy who tells you, hey, if your lumbar spine runs on the deadlift, it's bad form. If you good morning the squat, it's bad form. I'm already a stickler for perfect form. And yet I have people who outdo me. Why? Because they're purists. Everything needs to be perfect. But the pathetic thing is that most likely these people went on my channel, watched all of my lifting videos, saw perfect form everywhere, and then found the one video where finally they had something on me and they just perched in their pants. They couldn't hold it. In the comments like rats. It blows my mind. The worst part being, again, as I say, that their point doesn't even stick because the top of the range of motion is the least important. Again, if I apply the very principle and mindset and I look at it point by point instead of looking at the lift as a whole, guess what? You can say accurately that the top of the range of motion where you lock the lift is the least important for hypertrophy. Why? You're just stacking joints, bro. And if you tell me that that's not true, if you tell me that this is the most important, then why don't you just set a pin and just do this? Just lock your elbows. If it's so important for hypertrophy, just lock your elbows. Just set a bar for the pin squat and just lock your knees, or you'll get massive quads from that, right? Because that's what matters, is when you lock, right? Do it for 5 years, come back to me when you can barely walk and you're in a wheelchair, and we'll have a good laugh together. But beyond that, because I'm not done, I am not done. Beyond that, even this is a misapplication of a principle that is already wrong. Just like with the snatch, it's the exact same problem because since they're never satisfied, I've always asked myself why they miss such grievous opportunities to be jerks. Like for example, the squeeze of the glutes. Why don't they talk about that? Well, it's for one simple reason. It's because, and I'm especially proud of this, they're gullible and conformist. They follow the trend that they don't understand, and that across the board is them, because I'm going to cite to you 3 things that the form police never speaks about, never, I've never heard it once on this platform, but that actually constitute examples of form mishaps they could actually discuss and have a point. For example, the overhead press again. So the overhead press, you have people who tell you, oh, if you don't lock, it doesn't count, because in their heads, life is an Olympic weightlifting platform. Like, there's a judge hidden somewhere in my garage that is going to judge my lift. No, there's no judge. But on top of that, look at the overhead press. Look at the way most people overhead press. Most people, when they overhead press, they start with the bar here, at their collarbone, or at nose level. I've seen people start at nose level. I have never ever seen anyone say anything about that. So that's okay, but me not locking my elbows is not okay. How does that compute? I mean, when I overhead press, the bar is here. It's mid-chest, I go through a full range of motion, and on top of that, I go through a full range of motion at the bottom, when the shoulders are in flexion under load, meaning that that's when they're the most stimulated. So in reality, if you were to actually choose between top or bottom of the range of motion on the overhead press, guess what? It's much more important to go through the bottom of the range of motion. Yes, it is. Doesn't mean that it's the only thing you need to do because, again, if it were, we could just do this forever and get massive shoulders. Or do this at the bottom of the squat and do it forever. That's also another counter-argument to the form police who says, oh, go as to grass, it's the bottom that counts. Okay, if the bottom counts, load the bar and just do small movements at the bottom and you'll get massive legs, right? No, you won't. Why? Because it's the holistic nature. It's the entirety of the lift that matters. Because it's the distance travel. It's not where the distance gets you. That is a very simple concept to understand. But again, for the overhead press, it's just destruction. I just annihilated their argument. Because at the end of the day, it's 5 times worse to start with the bar high than the bar not locked. Always. Just through the very nature of the muscle stimulus. Next up is going to be the RDL. The Romanian deadlift, first off, the Romanian deadlift that no one understands, it's not that hard, guys. A Romanian deadlift is a negative deadlift. Why do I still see people who do them with stiff legs? It's not a fucking stiff leg movement. I will punk anyone who I see do it with locked knees. You are supposed to bend at the knee. It's a hip hinge. Do you do your deadlifts with locked knees? I don't think so. And yet, no one talks about it. I see big fitness pages who still teach the Romanian deadlift as a stiff leg deadlift. Can we get a moratorium about that? Can we get everyone together in a big hall and just say stop, enough? An RDL is a negative deadlift for range of motion, a stiff leg deadlift is from the floor, and a stiff leg Romanian deadlift is the bastardized, stupid version of an RDL. Can we do that? I don't think we can. That's sad. I'm not going to force people. But I want to say that because most likely some people are going to be surprised too. A lot of people still don't understand how to do an RDL. Or they do it for a partial, which again I have nothing against, but that's not a full range of motion. A true RDL, you go until the plates kiss the floor, not touch the floor, kiss the floor, and you go up, and then down, and up. And yet I've seen people post RDL videos where they barely go at their kneecap, and no one in the comments says anything. Where is the form police when it matters? Where is the form police? I thought that your job was to help people lift properly. The only thing you do is you bugger people on bullshit standards, and then you don't follow up with things that actually matter. The number of videos I've seen again about strongmen or powerlifters who do overhead press, who start with the bar here and no one says shit, he skipped the harder part of the range of motion. The fuck? No one has anything to do about that, okay? RDL, same thing. That's the harder part of the range of motion below the knee. That's where you want to go in. If you skip it, it makes the lift 2 times easier. So where is the continuity in their logic? There is none. I am a better member of the form police even though I hate them. Goes to show that they're truly bad at their job. Whew. And I'm just going to finish up also by saying that it cracks me up that they never take into account the fact that the speed of the negative is also part of what makes good or bad form, because it's the same reason why if you bounce the bar on your chest on the bench, people say it doesn't count. Why? You cheated a part of the range of motion. It's not a problem, but you didn't really go through it. Same for the dive bomb on the squat. Same for touch and go deadlift. It's cheating the toughest part of the range of motion. And if you're a bodybuilder, you don't want to do that. Again, that's something that is really spoken about. The bench thing is. And I can continue on and on about lifts that are never done properly, but no one cares. Like street curls, like strict curls. When I see a video called strict curls, I know 2 things. The guy is going to push his back against the wall, meaning that he makes the lift easier because he has something to rest against. I feel like I'm having a heart attack right now. And he's going to lift his elbows. Meaning that it's not really a curl, it's a front raise. And yet no one talks about that. And you have guys who are like biomechanics guru who tell you that, oh, you have to lift like this, like that, who do their curls like this, and they don't see the irony in that. That's not a curl, that's not a... So front raise, this topic just... Okay, let's recenter and let's continue. So these were my 3 examples that just show that these people truly are gullible and conformist. They don't really understand what they're talking about. And that also goes to show and explains another portion of the Zerooo thing. The Zerooo thing that to me is the most aggravating because I'm a bodybuilder. So beyond the thing that it's like you're being judged by someone even though you're not a powerlifter, the problem is also that it's trying to propagate the idea that the lift is zero, meaning that it had no effect, as if removing a portion of the range of motion makes the lift null. But again, if you look at the lift as a whole, the top of the range of motion is the least important, the bottom is the most important, but the medium is also important. So in terms of percentages, it's all important. If you remove any portion, yes, it reduces the hypertrophic benefits, but it doesn't negate them. And yet there are people who truly believe that. I can tell you that there are people who think that if you don't go all the way down and all the way up on pull-ups, then it doesn't count. This is Form Police 101, right? It's the one lift where they're good because they have chicken legs and so they can bang up pull-ups like there's no tomorrow. And then they try to ascribe that type of standard to big dudes. It's like, you know that you can build a massive back with partials pull-ups. It's actually better. I've made that point in the past that it's better. And it's also not really possible to argue against it. Like, I won't talk about it again. You want to see it, you go into the description. I speak about it in length. But it truly is something that bothers me because I know that novices fall for that. Because it's, you know, it's in reality, it's peer pressure. It's people who are going to force you to lift a certain way and are going to fear-monger you. They're going to tell you, oh, if you don't actually go through the full range, then you get no benefits, you won't grow. That is not true. I'm here to tell you it's not. They're just lying to you. But the Zerooo meme also corroborates that. It's part of the meme. It's the reason why people say it all the time. And also it's shitting on partials, even though partials are good. And the big tool, the sword that they use to poke you if you're not responding to their argument that are flimsy, they try to get you emotional, and they usually try to do that by attacking your ego. And by attacking your ego, what I mean by that is that they're going to call what you do ego lifting. Meaning that they're going to say, oh, you lift like this within proper form because you're trying to impress others or impress yourself. And that is bad, right? Because they are going to point out at the fact that you're letting your ego dictate your life and get the best of you. That, of course, is a very vicious attack, right? It shows that past their pathetic attempts at being logical, which fails, they have to resort to just sneak attacks, like they are cry bullies. But the problem is that even that doesn't stand, because doing something for the acceptance of others is ego lifting. So if you squat as to grass because you were bullied into that by the internet, that's ego lifting. You're not thinking for performance or hypertrophy, you're just doing something because you're forced. That's it. So the entire idea of ego lifting is just completely null and void. Rare are the people who live for others. I know they exist, but the vast majority of what is called ego lifting is not that. It's actually anti-heavy lifting, and it's an ad hominem. For the most part, people who say, oh, that's ego lifting, could be translated into, oh, you're lifting heavier than me and I don't like it, it makes me feel inferior, so please don't. I'm going to try and make you feel bad by attacking your ego and make you look vain and attempt to make you look like someone who cares about the opinion of others by giving you my opinion, hoping that you care about it. It's such convoluted mess, but it really goes to show that it's from a place of projection. It's people who are crushed by others, who try to crush others in their turn. You have to resist these people. They do a lot of damage on YouTube Fitness to the weak-minded that are easily swerved. You see that also with the entire cheating thing. People that don't like when you cheat, like cheat reps. I think, one, because they don't understand what it means to cheat on a movement, but also because, again, it's that control freak thing. Like, they want everyone to live the same, and they want clean form. They have that obsession with clean form, even though they don't know what it means, that it means nothing. They want clean form from everyone, but they don't know why. They can't explain to you why it's better to not cheat. Or they'll say, oh, you have better muscle activation, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, it's the same example of the as to grass in parallel. You can use both to progress. Cheating allows you to move more weight, and then you can do strict form to hit certain muscles. But even that doesn't really matter, because, again, on my channel, I've been told that I'm cheating on movements that are clean. Like my curls, for example. I do curls all the time. I've been doing curls for a long time. When you have dumbbells literally so big that they can't clear your leg, you have to, at some point, make a movement with your hip to clear the hip. That's not cheating, that's called lifting. And also, newsflash again, I'm going to mind blow some people. The bottom of the lift of the curl, you raising the arm, is not really bicep activation at all. It's mostly shoulder engagement. You start activating the bicep when it's flexed, and that means that doing the spaghetti arm at the bottom of the curl is not only dangerous, but it's stupid. And again, I won't talk about that more because I've already done that in a video that I put in the description as well. But you don't want to straighten your arm for a curl. That's stupid. That's also the reason why I say don't follow the form police. They'll get you injured. That's how you snap a bicep. Do not ever straighten your arm with a load. Ever. And you don't have to squeeze at the top either. The movement is what matters. The distance traveled is what matters. Of course, these people were not birthed from just the void. As I said, they were attracted by powerlifting. They follow powerlifting standards wrongly. Then they started using LG Intensity's joke as a mean to create an identity. But they were really nurtured by some very dogmatic channels on YouTube Fitness. I don't need to cite them. I'll cite Ripoto because he's a meme at this point. But they needed to have like a figure to follow. And that was all of those old dudes, they tend to be old dudes, were super dogmatic. and who through peer pressure told people that there was one way and one way only to lift, and if you didn't do it like this, you were a pussy or you were stupid, etc. That of course is idiotic, but I know a lot of people fell for that. You need to push that, what is the term? Influence out of your life. It's a very bad influence. All of that culminates in some of the most disgusting content on YouTube Fitness you can find, which is the Gym Fails compilation, which for the most part is watched by normies who don't even lift, right? Don't kid yourself. Lifters don't watch those videos. It's people who don't lift. It's people who rejoice in the pain and suffering of others, because a lot of these videos are compilations of injuries. I personally don't find it very funny, especially when it's a guy who just was lifting properly and got a freak accident. That's not cool. And that truly shows that those people, the form police, they're just not, it's not us. It's not our community, they're parasites. They don't belong with us. They don't. They're just giving everyone a bad name, they're putting out bad information, and they just need to be booted out of our country. Because they're just, you know, they're cockroaches. They add nothing to the discussion, and they don't even participate in our hobby, they don't even lift. And this is verifiable. Every single gym fail channel I know of is ran by someone who doesn't even fucking lift. They don't know what it means. And yes, some videos make fun, like large intensities of bad technique, and that can actually help people avoid those techniques, yes. But for the most part, it ceased being that a long time ago. And also, rejoicing in the pain of someone you don't know, unless you have a really strong opinion or vengeance or vendetta against them, is just a sign that you're a piece of shit. That's my opinion. I've never understood that. To finish up and to wrap it up, in reality, the form police resent strength, they resent strength and size, and they are trying to turn their weakness into virtue. It's a slave mindset. It's the guy who squats 200 pounds and tells you, oh, but it's ass to grass, so it's good. No, it's not. It's bad. It's weak. It's okay to be weak, but don't make yourself look stronger than the actual strong by virtue of your weakness. That doesn't work. It's never worked. The problem is that there are no style points in strength, as I say, and hypertrophy feeds off of all of the range of motions. So these guys, again, have no legs to stand on because their advice doesn't apply to strength or size. They tend to be ultra purists. They tend to be anti-belts and wraps. Like, I've seen that also. Same, likewise, it makes me want to chuck rocks at my screen when I see someone say, oh, you have wraps, so it doesn't count. What do these people think the wraps are made of? Titanium? Right? Stuff from Krypton? Dude, it gives like what, 10, 20 pounds? I know some type of wraps give more, but for the most part, all of these elbow sleeves and stuff, it's all in there. It's a placebo. They don't do much at all. I can tell you that if you tried, you would realize that. Unless it's really, really rigid stuff, they don't really add much. And yet, those people point out and say, huh, the lift doesn't count, 0. Why? Because again, they're always looking for the one thing they can pinpoint to make you look bad so that they can look good. Of course, it doesn't work, it just makes them look pathetic. To wrap up the philosophy aspect of the video, absolute rules get people hurt. It really does. And the form police is responsible for all of that. And in return, it gave birth to the anti-form movement, which created also a new police brigade, which are also part of the form police, but of opposing departments. You know those guys? I've had people ask me in the past few days, what do you think about Barbell Brigade and blah, blah, blah. What I think about them is this. I like their content. I hate their fanboys, because their fanboys are all the same. They're all science pondexters who look like shrimps, who've read 3 books in their lives, and who have now decided that they're geniuses and they know everything about lifting. And they've decided that, oh, form is such an antiquated concept, bro. It doesn't exist, bro. And I know that the Barbell Brigade is a little bit like that. They're not as mimified, they're more intelligent than this. They tend to have their flaws. But the problem is that what they gave birth to is like the pits. The pits. I thought we were going to be done with the form police, that would be done with all of the dogmatic idiots. And now we have just the pendant of them who are just as dogmatic, but without the dogma. Like you're an ideologist without an ideology. Great. And you know what? Why that pisses me off is because novices need to be taught that there is a certain structure to follow, but they cannot be bullied into following a strict technique. But on the other hand, you can't just let them free and say, oh, lift whatever you want, bro. The injuries are just imaginary. It doesn't matter. No, it doesn't work. And this is the reason why also I think Barbell Brigade is a little bit intermediate focused, because their advice works for people who understand the way their body works. Most novices don't. And the problem is that a lot of the people, because it's YouTube Fitness, that follow their advice are novices. They're given that key and that path to freedom too early, and they're going to get hurt / make no progress because of it. On top of that, they're smug. The form police is straight up stupid. They're smug. Like, they're just smug. It's malevolent and smug. I hate smugness. I just cannot deal with it. So the answer to all of the questions I got about, what do you think about them? They make good content for idiots. For idiots who don't even have the intellectual capacities to grasp those concepts. It's like giving, in my language we say, c'est donner de la confiture au cochon. It's like giving a laptop to an ape. Cool, you have all of that technology, but you don't know how to use it. So it's completely worth it. You don't have the level to understand the concept that Barbell Brigade prepares, and therefore it doesn't apply to you. Do not actually follow them. The problem also is that this, of course, also gets people hurt, because we can just never get rid of it. I am stuck between people who are stupid and people who are too big-brained to understand that relativism is dangerous in the field of fitness. And I'm sort of in the middle, being pelted by rotten tomatoes, by people on one hand who have this super idealistic vision of what form is, and you have to squat with high bar all the time, and it's the perfect technique, and if you don't, then screw you, you're worse than I don't know what. And on the other hand, those form hippies who have decided that we can do away with form, we have transcended humanity. No, we haven't. We have a middle ground. It's such a simple middle ground. Please, can we hold on to that middle ground? The middle ground is called logic. It's called application to the individual case. It's called using your stupid brain. Yes, there are certain things you need to follow, but not to an absolute standard. I'm in between, I'm right in between, but of course, the guy in between, as I just said, tends to receive the most arrows because he's not part of the extreme. I'll always be in the in-between because for the most part, that's where the truth lays. And I'm going to wrap up. I said that I was going to wrap up 20 minutes ago. All of them, all of these people, the form police, the form brigade, whatever you want to call it, all of them are petulant children, adding nothing to the discussion. Form is about you / your goals. Ignore them. I know I just made an hour-long video about them. It's not really ignoring them. It needed to come out. I needed to say it, but now it's out. I feel so much better. And this is my message to you. I've made my little rant. I explained to you the reason why those people make no sense. Now it's up to you to carry that forward and just focus on being your best self, understanding that form is about you and you foremost. It has no bearings being a ground for discussion outside of concepts and outside of things that apply to the most people. The most people doesn't mean the individual. These are different. And I'm going to leave you with that. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.